Running on Air by eleventy7, Ch.4.1. Draco had a very limited range of possessions, Harry thinks an hour later. It's surprising. He assumed Draco would amass a number of expensive but useless things. But the first 3 cartons are lined with neatly folded clothes. Well-made robes and quality cloaks, but hardly opulent or extravagant clothing. There's a small selection of ties for formal wear, and 3 tiny boxes that Harry first mistakes for ring boxes. But no, each one has a set of cufflinks inside. The next carton is filled with documents, tax files and the like. Draco's finances were kept in good order, Harry sees with a brief skim of the documents. No apparent investments, but his spending seemed quite limited. The 4th carton is filled with personal possessions, items of which Harry can only guess the history. A set of photographs of picturesque countrysides, several books, a well-thumbed car manual, and a set of Hogwarts textbooks, a notebook, an origami rose, a bottle of aged whiskey, and a school tie. When Harry picks up the tie, it unravels and sends a prefect badge spinning across the floor. But beneath the tie he discovers a small, white jewellery box. More cufflinks. He snaps it open. Draco's wedding ring. It's plain platinum band. Rather inexpensive looking, Harry thinks. He turns the band around, looking for an engraving, but there is none. The ring looks like it's never been worn. He packs up the carton and goes to find Narcissa.
It can't be all of it.
I assure you, Narcissa says, setting her needlework aside.
It is.
Harry restlessly paces the room. It looks awfully familiar, and he realizes with a jolt that it's the same room that was in Narcissa's last memory of Draco. Narcissa sits by the gilded fireplace. On the wall opposite Harry is a family portrait at which Draco had spent so long gazing.
There's practically nothing. Clothes, some paperwork, a few books, and a couple of personal items. You're saying that's everything in Draco's life?
Draco became very... Narcissa pauses, then picks up her needlework again. The war changed him.
The war changed everyone.
Harry's voice is sharp, and he wonders why he feels irked by Narcissa's words. In any case, Narcissa says, drawing a long thread of red through the eye of a needle, I assure you that all of Draco's possessions are in those boxes.
Where's the rest? There must be other stuff. You've got his Hogwarts textbooks and a school tie. What about his cauldron set then? Or his robes, or his Quidditch stuff? He'd definitely have that.
Draco was always unbearably smug about his flying skills, Harry thinks. Narcissa shakes her head. I don't know why he kept the textbooks, but he sold or discarded everything else from Hogwarts.
Not his broom, at least.
Narcissa nods. I assume he sold his broom. Both Astoria and myself removed all his possessions when I was granted the rights to sell his house. We collected every item. Harry's silent for a moment.
Do you mind if I take the cartons with me?
Narcissa says nothing for a long moment, pushing the needle through the cloth. I don't wish for his possessions to be lost or destroyed, she says at last.
I'll keep it in the evidence archives.
Anyone could access it.
My office, then.
Narcissa is still hesitant, Harry sees. He wonders if the previous case officer misplaced seized possessions and gives her what he hopes is a reassuring look.
I'll keep the carton in my home, then, and put a disillusionment charm on it.
Narcissa considers that. I'll accept those terms, she says, then stands up. Would you like to see the car? Yes, he would. She accompanies him to a side door, an old servant entranceway, Harry guesses, and gives him directions to the converted stables. Sets off into the gardens, following a path that cuts directly across manicured lawns and past a weeping willow with a stone bench beneath it. You can see the stables flanked by a well-tended flower bed, and as he unlocks the bolted door and steps inside, he can still smell the rich aroma of riding leather. The hooks on the wall, no doubt once used to hold tack, now hold secateurs, hedge trimmers, trowels, and grafters. Harry manages to squeeze past the bags of potting mix and fertilizers, making his way through a narrow doorway and into the main stables. The stalls have been removed, but the sweet scent of hay still lingers. There's some gardening items in here too, rakes and brooms leaning against the wall, but most of the room is taken up by the car, hidden beneath a large swathe of canvas. Harry drags the canvas away, causing clouds of dust and dirt to drift into the air, and detects deterrent spells woven into the material, most likely to stop rats and other vermin from getting near the car and chewing wiring, Harry thinks. The car is in a beautiful condition, a 2002 Renault Megane Coupe, Harry recalls from the car manual found in the cartons. A nice car, but hardly something flashy or outrageously luxurious. It wouldn't look out of place parked in the Muggle London somewhere, and maybe that was Draco's intention. He rests a hand against the bonnet, feeling the cold metal beneath his skin, polished smooth. After a moment, he steps forward and tugs on the driver door handle. Locked. Alohomora. If Draco warded the car with magic, the spell won't work. But it does. Harry tries the handle again, and this time the door swings open. It's the same car that was in Astoria's memory, he thinks. The interior is pale grey in comparison to the charcoal-coloured exterior, and is just as clean. At first, Harry suspects someone scourgified the car, but then he spots a handful of Muggle coins and some receipts in the center console compartment. He pauses a moment, then gets into the car and shuts the door. It feels strange sitting in the driver's seat of Draco Malfoy's car. He glances into the rear vision of the mirror, half expecting to see a ghost of himself sitting in the back. What's the point of that, sitting in a box only going where someone else takes you? Harry shakes his head, as if trying to shake away his thoughts, and turns his attention to the receipt. One is dated the 9th of September 2003. The date of Draco's disappearance, and shows that he purchased £20 worth of petrol. Harry checks the timestamp, 10:26 a.m., at least 5 hours before he arrived in Diagon Alley. The second receipt is dated to the 5th of September 2003 at 11:29 p.m. and shows that Draco purchased £20 worth of petrol again in Truro, Cornwall. A fair distance from East Devon. What was Draco doing there so late at night? Harry's eyes flick to the rear vision mirror again, as if he'll find the answer hiding behind him. He leans across to the glove box and opens it. There's the ownership papers inside. Draco purchased the car from a dealership in Essex on the 31st of July 2002. Harry smiles slightly at the date and puts the paper aside. There's also a large book that Harry has to work hard to free from the glove box. 2003 Great Britain Road Atlas, he sees. Sets it aside and peers into the glove box. There's an auto-inking quill, but nothing else. Harry frowns and turns to the road atlas, opening it up. Immediately a plastic rectangular card falls out. Draco's license. Harry studies the photograph. If he looks closely enough, he can see a faint smile on Draco's face. He looks younger than he should, Harry thinks. Or perhaps it's just the first time he's seen Draco smiling since he began the case. The license doesn't hold much more new information for Harry. It has Draco's name, birth date, address. The license was granted on the 20th of June 2002 and expires in 2012. Still valid. Harry slips the license into his pocket, although he doesn't know why. It's unlikely to give new information no matter how much he studies it. Places the rest of the items back in the glove box, then leans back and stares through the windscreen and at the timber walls of the stable. would the car start if he tried it? Harry drops his gaze to the steering wheel. There's 2 slightly faded patches on it where Draco must have rested his hands constantly. Harry lifts his hands and places them over the same patches. Would you like the key? Harry jumps and swears loudly, then flushes as he realizes Narcissa is standing near the driver's side.
I didn't see you come in,
he says, wondering if he should apologize for swearing. Narcissa doesn't seem particularly offended, however. She's studying him intently. It's strange, she says, to see someone sitting in it. Can you drive?
No, Harry admits. I mean, with flu networks and port keys and apparating and everything, it seemed a bit redundant to get my license.
Narcissa nods. I never understood why Draco bothered with these ridiculous muggle contraptions. She holds out a plastic rectangle, and Harry stares at it uncomprehendingly. It's the key, she says with an air of faint irritation. He accepts it, turning it over in his hands.
This isn't a car key. There should be a little silver key, probably with a black grip on it and a button on it or something.
I assure you, it is the key, Narcissa says, her voice a little chilly. I would not have assumed that you knew even less about the muggle world than me.
It doesn't look like a car key,
Harry says defensively. Perhaps it's new technology. He wishes he'd kept up with the muggle world.
I mean, how do you open the car door with this?
Draco would just open the car door, Narcissa says. As long as the key was in his pocket or in his hand, the door would open. Harry hunts around the steering wheel looking for the ignition. There's a button with start on it, and he presses it doubtfully. Nothing happens.
Battery needs replacing,
Harry says decisively, pleased to at least know something. He tries a reparo spell, but it doesn't work.
I'll have to research automotive spells,
he says, getting out of the car and shutting the door. Narcissa covers the car with the canvas again, and Harry watches the sleek lines disappear beneath the folds of dusty cloth. When he goes to the apartment at night, Ginny wrinkles her nose after hugging him.
You smell odd, like hay and leather.
Harry laughs.
Long story. I was in some old stables. Your latest case is a missing horse, then?
Ginny nods at the boxes Harry had set down beside the front door.
Oh, I meant to tell you. We're playing the Stratford Skylarks on Saturday. There's going to be an international Quidditch scout there. That's brilliant news, Jenny,
Harry says warmly. It's long been a dream of hers to gain a place on the English national team.
I know, but the whole team's nerve-wracked about it. Gwen's called us all in for a special debriefing tonight. We'll be practicing all tomorrow. I'm sorry, I know we were supposed to be going to Ron and Hermione's for dinner tomorrow, but...
It's all right. I know how important this is for you.
Thanks for understanding,
Ginny says, kissing him briefly before grabbing her well-thumbed copy of Practical Quidditch Strategies.
The debriefing should only take an hour or so.
Unlikely. The team captain, Gwen, could get a bit over-enthusiastic and micromanage every detail. She reminds Harry uncannily of Oliver Wood.
See you soon,
he says, and she nods and steps out the door, disapparating a moment later. Harry sits at the counter, but the apartment seems too silent. So he goes out onto the balcony and watches the trains come and go, and listens to the noises of the city. If he removes his glasses and tilts his head back slightly, he can imagine that the River Thames is the Hogwarts Lake, shining in the dark light of dusk, and beyond it he can almost see the green Quidditch pitch, smell the freshly cut grass. And if he looks over his shoulder, he'll see the towers of Hogwarts reaching into the azure sky. He looks over his shoulder. The white walls of his apartment greet his gaze.
So, don't look back then.
He reaches into his pocket and takes out a driver's license, angling it in the thin light spilling from the apartment. Draco's face always stays the same, though, locked in a moment from 4 years ago. In the streets below, someone is whistling, blow the wind southerly again. The following day, Harry receives an owl from Astoria asking him to visit that afternoon. He arrives around 2 o'clock, wondering if she'll give him more memories. She does. She takes him to the kitchen first, however, and makes a cup of tea. For once, her husband is home. Sitting at the dining table, Sophie nestled in his lap as she tries to build a house from blocks. "Matt," Astoria says, "this is Harry Potter. He's trying to find Draco." Matthew looks up, still laughing over something Sophie did. He's a broad-shouldered man with thick chestnut hair and brown eyes crinkled with laughter. Someone who smiles easily, Harry thinks, and well suited to Astoria's personality. He waits for Matthew to gape at him, or at least stare at his scar, but not a trace of recognition seems to cross Matthew's face.
"Hello,"
he says cheerfully, holding out a hand. Harry shakes it.
"Nice to meet you. Had much luck finding Astoria's mysterious ex-husband, then?"
"He's not mysterious," Astoria says with exacerbation.
"He lived in the manor, you said. I feel like you two probably lazed around all day eating grapes off gold platters and laughing at us peasants."
Astoria laughs and shoves at him playfully. "You think you're hilarious, don't you?"
"A little bit. Hey, Harry, are you a wizard?"
Harry stares at him, not sure if he's joking.
"Yes?"
he ventures.
"Oh, so there's like wizard police sort of thing? Like Scotland Yard, but magic?"
"Stop kissing Harry. He's here to talk about the case," Astoria says, and Matthew shrugs.
"All right. Well, I think it's time for someone's nap anyway."
He stands up, lifting a helplessly giggling Sophie over one shoulder as he walks from the room. Harry waits a moment, listening to Sophie's giggles fade, and then he turns to stare at Astoria.
"You married a muggle?"
"Are you surprised?" Astoria puts the kettle on.
"Well, quite frankly, yes. You're pureblood, you said, and I mean, not that I have a problem with it, of course not, but..."
Astoria takes pity on him. "I understand. We all make certain assumptions, don't we?" He studies Astoria as she pours the tea.
"I watched the memories."
"And?" She walks over, setting a mug in front of him.
"I don't know."
He chews his lips, thinking.
"Draco's car. Did he drive a lot?"
"Whenever he felt like it, yes. Sometimes he'd just get in the car and drive and drive."
"He went to Truro a week before he disappeared."
"Yes." Astoria sips her tea. "He said he wanted to see where the British mainland ended."
"Or started."
Astoria looks up at him, surprise etched across her face. "Or started," she says slowly. "He said that too. Or started."
"Draco liked circles."
Astoria studies him for a long moment. "I met Matthew in 2001, she says. "I was in a bookshop in Exeter. We both reached for the same book at the same time." She looks away, a small smile gracing her face. "We had coffee together by the end of the week. I was hopelessly in love."
"But you married Draco in 2002.
Harry, slightly bewildered by the sudden change in topic. Astoria nods. "My parents, well, they might not have been Voldemort supporters. They're still old-fashioned. If I had married a muggle, I would have broken my father's heart. My mother might be more understanding, but my father..." Harry takes another sip of tea, wanting to interrupt and ask questions, but knowing he must let Astoria tell her story. "My parents were desperate to procure a good marriage for me. They arranged for me to meet with the Malfoys. Draco was perfectly civil, but I saw something in him that was also a part of me. We were both acting roles we had been assigned, wearing masks given to us by others. After we became friends and then best friends, I told Draco I could never truly love him, and I intended to marry just to please my parents." Astoria pauses to take a long sip of tea. When she sets the mug back down, she begins tracing patterns on the table, drawing circles. Harry notices and wonders if she realizes it.
"And?"
He prompts. Astoria glances up at him. "And Draco said the same." Harry waits, but Astoria doesn't elaborate, and he thinks he understands anyway. "I assume this will stay between us," Astoria says after a moment. Harry nods, then changes the topic.
The boxes at the manor, are they truly all of Draco's possessions?
Yes.
Just those and the car.
Astoria straightens up, looking attentive. You saw the car? Oh, it's been a long time since I saw that thing. I almost miss it. Almost. Harry hesitates.
It makes me wish I'd learned to drive.
Astoria smiles. I've got another memory for you. I wasn't sure which one to pick, but I think it's the right one. She searches her pocket for a moment, then hands him a vial. Take care of it.
I will.
Harry departs, thoughts churning like wind-tossed waves. To be continued.